Hello Shiny viewers, I am DS, your psychologist, and welcome to another episode on Channel NITT. In this episode, we are going to introduce the basic concepts of the shadow functions. So the shadow functions refer to your 5th to 8th function of your cognitive stack. How do you derive your 5th to 8th function? First, you have to know your cognitive stack. Once you have gotten your cognitive stack, all you have to do is to find the opposing function and then map it to the opposite side. So position 1 will correspond to position 5, 2 to 6, 3 to 7, and 4 to 8. So before we talk about each of the shadow functions, in general, the shadow functions work in your unconscious or subconscious. According to Carl Jung, all these desires that you have are in the unconscious. You are not conscious of it. But many people do not understand the concept of unconscious well. They do understand, however, the subconscious. So just to make things simpler, we're going to collapse the two together and talk about it as if it's the same thing. But from the psychological point of view, they are not the same thing. So literally speaking, most people do not see their own shadows unless they bother to take a look at it. Most of the time, your mind is focused on your own self, and that is comprised of your first 4 functions. So according to Jung, we are generally not aware of our shadow functions. However, people around us can see our shadow functions at work. Even though we are not consciously aware of our shadow functions, Carl Jung believes that all these functions still have some influence on us. Okay, let's start talking about our shadow functions. At position number 5, we have the opposing role or the Nemesis function. So the Nemesis function is in direct opposition to your hero function. It somehow acts to overthrow the hero. Sometimes this Nemesis function seems to be challenging for the hero function. At other times, it seems to call out doubts to the hero function. Are you really doing the right thing? This Nemesis function will call out to the hero. Because the hero function forms the main part of your ego, this Nemesis function is usually rejected. And when someone with the Nemesis function comes very close to you, you feel as if this person is a threat. You will generally not like a person with a Nemesis function as their dominant or hero function. It is also possible for anyone to use the Nemesis function subconsciously or unconsciously to someone that they think are threatening their ego, be it real or imagined. Because the Nemesis function and the hero function really clash big time, it is possible that in a bid to protect your hero function, you might project the Nemesis function on someone else, so that you will now go on opposite ends and then you try to fight against this person who seems to be fighting against you. Again, this might be real or imagined. As a result, you tend to believe that the other person has an ulterior motive or a hidden motive. The 6th function is known as the critical parent, sometimes known as the witch. What is a critical parent? A critical parent is a parent who seems to always belittle the child. When the child is doing well, they say that you are not doing good enough. So a critical parent is almost always never pleased with the child. Our 2nd function, the parent, is actually a nurturing and protective parent. The critical parent is a criticizing parent that sometimes use humiliation tactics. When we see someone around us who seem to be childish or a failure, our critical parent can set in. So this function may come in to criticize other people. So we also tend to be very critical of people with this function. So this could be one of the ways where subconsciously we may use this function. At other times, when we are very stressed, subconsciously the critical parent can also come in to offer an alternative voice. So for the ENTJ, your critical parent is NE, extroverted intuition. So sometimes when the ENTJ is stressed, the critical parent may come in and say, did you consider all possibilities? But usually, whichever function you have on this position, you tend to dislike people having this function. At position number 7, we have the Trickster. At our channel, we used to call this position the blind spot function. The Trickster is also known as the sly child or the deceptive child. So because the purpose of this function is sometimes to protect your 3rd function, it is not necessarily a bad function. It can be good at times too. Nonetheless, this function is usually uncomfortable, sometimes even confusing to use. At position number 8, we have the demon function. This is the function where anyone will feel hardest to connect with. When you try to use this function, be it because you are forced to or due to other circumstances, you will feel that this is totally not you. You will not want to use this function for a long time. This function usually feels very alien or foreign. While sometimes you may have to use the Trickster function, but for the Demon function, you tend to want to use it the least because this is in direct opposition to yourself. Most people will not have good experiences using this function. At the subconscious level, you may also demonize others using this 8 function. So precisely how does these 8 functions work together to form the persona of the MBTI type? We're going to talk about that in our future episodes. So in our next episode, we're going to first feature, of course, the ENTJ. We're going to talk about the ENTJ from the perspective of all 8 functions. So if you are not an ENTJ but you want your MBTI type to be featured faster than other MBTI types in this series, do leave a comment below so that we will produce that episode first. And if you have not subscribed, do consider subscribing so that we can bring you more MBTI and fun stuff. Okay, I'll see you in our next episode then. Bye bye.